Hey from Texas, it's Lindy Fulford with Striking Splendor, and I'm here today to go over how Scott and I ended up in marriage counseling. But to get to that point, I have to start out with where it all started, because there was a lot that happened between how we met and when we went to marriage counseling to where we are today. So I'm going to start off with this. This is a disclaimer, okay? Everything that you're about to hear, or if you read on my blog, is 100% true according to me. And I say that because every story has two sides. So whatever you may hear from me may not necessarily be how it was interpreted by Scott or by whoever else may happen to be in my stories. The second part of this, and the second disclaimer, is that marriage counseling is not for everyone. Both parties have to be willing to go do that marriage counseling and put all their effort into it. And there are other reasons why some people may or may not need to stay in their marriage, and that's not for me to say. This is just my story. All right, so how did Scott and I meet? Well, in 2001, I was a single mom of a 4-year-old, and I'd finally come to the conclusion that I was fine all on my own. I didn't need a man in my life. Everything was going well. I had a job. I was good, but as they say, when that happens, tends to be when somebody comes along. And that's kind of what happened with us. So I had gone to visit my dad and stepmom. They had recently moved to Pflugerville and had a condo because my dad was getting his cancer treatments, and they lived in Granite Shoals and they still had their place, but he really needed a place that was closer so they didn't have to drive so far. And so I pulled up one evening, and Nell had already told me, hey, you gotta meet this guy that lives next door. Good looking man, he works a lot. I'm like, all right. So I pulled up one evening, and there's somebody in the backyard cooking. Mind you, this is a condo, so they're right next to each other. So I peek my head up over, and I'm like, hey, what's you cooking? And he says, chicken? You want some? I'm like, I kind of laughed it off, and I went next door to my dad and stepmom. Little did I know that he was actually waiting for me to come over. My bad. So the night progresses on. I go to leave. It's really, really late. And this young man comes outside while I'm getting Ashlyn ready and putting her in her car seat. There's my stepmom, Nell, in her fish pajamas. And I barely say a single word to him. And I drive off. And my stepmom had a few things to say to me about that. She couldn't believe I had just left and not said anything to him. So I was like, okay, I'm going to invite him to my birthday party. So I pulled up one evening. He happened to be getting home from work, and I invited him to my birthday party. And it was at Dallas nightclub. And we were going dancing, and I really hadn't seen him too much, so I wasn't real sure I was going to know. I mean, I figured I'd know who he was when I saw him. But, so I get to Dallas nightclub, and I'm dancing. Come to find out, because he does show up with a little bit of liquid courage. It took him a little bit all day to get prepared, and we danced the night away. We had a great time. He might have had a little bit too much to drink, but that's okay. We had a blast. We both got in cars with our designated drivers and went back to his place where we fell asleep, all of us, we fell asleep watching Meet the Fockers, I believe it was. So the next morning we woke up, he invited us back over, Ashlyn and I, to come over and have some brisket. And if any of you have ever had Scott's brisket, it's really, really, really good. Except on this occasion, it was really, really, really burnt. But it was a fantastic evening, and Ashlyn even cut the cheese in front of him. So fast forward, I'm not sure where I'm at on this. So fast forward, 3 days later, we basically knew that we wanted to be together. And within 2 weeks of actually our first date of actually really meeting, I had my engagement ring. I don't recommend that for anyone. If my daughter came and told me that, I would tell her she was absolutely nuts. But sometimes you just know. And we just knew that we were meant to be together. So, we spent every waking moment together until hunting season, which then gave me time to snoop. And ladies, you know, we're all snoopers. It's like in our genes. It's just what we do.